Happy New League Year, everybody!
Woohoo!
It's Sports Frenzy 2.0, baby!
Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate.
Your team, no matter how bad they were last year, they're no longer trash, at least for the next few months.
That's right. Hope springs eternal in the NFL.
And this is the day, March the 12th, 2025, where you have hope.
You have dreams.
Until maybe late September, early October. Especially if you're a Jets fan.
Wow.
I am joined, of course, by your Uncle Dave, the Conquistador, my brother from another mother, Dave Height.
And that is my brother, my best bud, the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And, of course, you know what we're doing here on Sports Frenzy 2.0, your favorite, your only politically incorrect sports commentary show. Big in Vietnam and Germany.
Woohoo! Welcome back, kids.
Although that's not working too well for us. Ever since we started shouting out to our biggest audiences, our numbers are dropping.
Come on!
There must be some kind of communist clampdown in Vietnam. But we are just going to run through for the next half an hour every transaction, significant transaction in the NFL. Your Uncle Dave will jump in and comment as we go along. So he's going to enjoy this because he gets to stop me whenever he wants and say, "Shut up, Kev. I got something to say."
I'll just jump in. Alrighty then.
We'll start off with our teams. We'll start off with the Chicago Bears. Now, of course, last week we'd already covered Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. Now we solidify. Dave's got to be ecstatic. We have a center.
We got a center. We have arguably the best center we've had since Olin Kreutz retired.
Drew Dahlman coming over from the Atlanta Falcons. 3 years, $48 million, $28 million guaranteed. I promise you, I will not harp on the money when it comes to anything other than the top 10 or 15 players. But yes, we did get the center we've been targeting, that we've been wanting. You mentioned it last week. You said the Bears were going after Drew Dahlman, and they did.
Got their man.
Then they shore up the defensive line with Grady Jarrett, again, coming over from the Falcons.
Somebody who brings some nasty.
But he's
That's
a leader.
what's
He
needed.
is a team leader.
Yes.
3 years, $43.5 million, $28.5 million guaranteed. Now, the one that I have a little concern
the
about,
weak link in this whole bit so far,
is bringing over from the Colts, defensive end Dayo Odeyingbo. 3 years, $48 million, $32 million
for a
guaranteed.
guy who's really not a sack machine.
No, he is a beast. He is a physical. He's a monster. But
Now, we know, let's face it, the Colts are not a defensive juggernaut at all. Now, with our new coach,
Mr.
on
Allen,
defense, Mr. Allen, our coordinator, this kid's got some talent he can work with.
we'll see.
We'll see if they can coach him up.
We will see. We move on to the Miami Dolphins. Not so good for the Dolphins. Sorry.
Is it an upgraded backup quarterback or not, picking up Mr. Zach Wilson?
Boy, that's a loaded question.
I know.
Because you didn't have much at backup quarterback.
Right. At least Wilson's got starting experience. Granted, it was the trash Jets where he played. They didn't do him any favors.
And in Denver, Sean Payton had him third on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Behind Jarrett Stidham.
So, we will see.
But the NFL pays well. $6 million for 1 year for Zach Wilson. Then, of course, you cannot help but make your offensive line better when you bring in a cast-off from the Chicago Bears.
Oh,
I'm
God.
sorry, bud. Larry
God.
Borum.
Oh, God, not good. Borum is a poster child for false starts. He's a revolving door. Not good for Tua. Not good at all.
And then they, of course, signed a third wide receiver. That's fine. I'm more concerned about the Titans letting this guy go.
Yeah, Westbrook Ikine.
Nick Westbrook-Ikine, who was a touchdown machine last year for the Titans, even though he didn't catch a lot of passes. When he did,
He made them count.
right. He gets a 2-year deal from the Dolphins, but yeah, I'm wondering what the Titans are doing. The Titans did not sign anybody in free agency that I could see. Now I'm beginning to wonder if Cam Ward's not going to be better off going to Cleveland.
Good God, help us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Russell Wilson is making a trip to Cleveland.
Yes, along with, New York?
Yep.
To talk to the Giants. Because, of course, today at 4 o'clock, when the new league year started, Aaron Rodgers was released officially by the Jets. So that kind of opened things up for Rodgers and Wilson, all these other second-level quarterbacks. Because it's like musical chairs. This year, above any other year I've seen, is musical chairs for these quarterbacks.
It's usually recycle a coach. No, this year it's recycle a quarterback.
Well, the one that really... Well, there were two. I'm sorry. There were two that really messed everything up. So let's follow the daisy chain here of quarterbacks. We'll start off with the Seattle Seahawks trading Geno Smith to the
Las Vegas
Raiders for a third-round pick. Reuniting him with Pete Carroll. Okay. So now the Raiders have their quarterback.
Or do they?
I don't think so. But we'll see.
A stopgap, shall we say.
But then that opens things up in Seattle. Seattle, of course, we talked about this last week, loses DK Metcalf, who ends up with the Steelers, ends up getting a monster deal.
Huge deal. Good grief.
DK Metcalf last week we discussed, he asked for the trade. He got the trade, second round pick, going back to Seattle, 5 years, $150 million. You don't see this out of the Steelers. And the most disturbing thing about this is that they still don't have a quarterback.
No, nobody to throw to Metcalf.
And Metcalf and George Pickens have the same number.
Yeah. Who's going to get it?
That's going to be fun. Two prima donnas fighting over their number.
Yeah. My money is on Metcalf getting that number.
I wouldn't be shocked if they trade Pickens.
Oh, he is a head case beyond being a head case.
So, Geno Smith traded to the Raiders, opening up the quarterback position in Seattle. But Seattle cut Tyler Lockett, trades DK Metcalf. Then they bring in Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold goes to the Seahawks on a 3-year, $100.5 million deal with $55 million guaranteed. And this is almost exactly the deal everybody 3 or 4 months ago was speculating he was going to get.
Yeah.
3-year, $100 million deal.
Boom.
But it was just who is going to pay it.
Yeah. And who is he going to throw to?
Yeah, they have got to get a number 2 receiver there. That's got to be their top priority right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
With now Jackson Smith and Jigba is now their number 1 guy.
By default.
Right. So, as the quarterback dominoes fall, who's going to be the quarterback in Minnesota? Is it going to be J.J. McCarthy? Well, there was early rumors, early speculation, it was going to be Daniel Jones, who was in with them later in the year after being released by the Giants.
Yep, but whoa. Daniel Jones signs with the Colts to compete with their idiot quarterback, Richardson.
Daniel Jones takes a 1-year, $14 million deal, as you mentioned, to compete for the starting job with Anthony Richardson. Let's do a little tangent here. Let's take a break and do a tangent and have a discussion. Because we've seen this in the past with the Chicago Bears. Have the Colts actually been fair to Anthony Richardson in terms of his development?
I don't think they have.
Now they're going into year 3 with him. He is a top 10 pick.
Which was a questionable top 10 pick.
But they have gone back and forth, in and out with him. Last year it was him or it was Joe Flacco. If they didn't like the way Richardson looked,
they pulled him and put Flacco in. He has not been given the opportunity to develop. They have not been coaching him to develop him at all. Because he's still making the same old mistakes time and time again.
And this is why I thought that Shane Steichen should have been fired after last year.
Oh, absolutely he should have been fired. There was no excuse for that.
This team bumbles their way into 7 or 8 wins every year. But it's not because of good coaching. It's obviously not because of good quarterback play. Basically, it's because of Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, being able to run the ball and a halfway decent defense. Halfway decent.
Now, of course, when I reference the Bears, one of the guys that I am referring to is, of course, one Justin Fields, who just got a fresh breath of life. Unfortunately, it is with the New York Jets.
So,
Justin Fields gets a 2-year, $40 million deal, $30 million guaranteed. Now, is he a bridge?
Potentially.
He's young enough where if he makes his mark finally, he could end up stepping up, being the next Baker Mayfield, the next Sam Darnold, the next Geno Smith.
We talked about it when the Bears let him go, that he was not developed well. And I believe that was, 2 horrible coaching situations. The end of the Nagy era and the beginning of the Eberflus. Neither one knew what the hell they were doing with prepping a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why right now I think the Bears, you just heard Dave, we will be more than happy to rip on what the Bears have done in the past. We ripped on it when it was happening.
Yeah, exactly. We knew how horrible the coaching situation was. What the Bears have done so far, trades, free agency.
And new coach.
And it shows the new coach, Ben Johnson, along with his defensive coordinator and rest of the coaching staff, did their homework on the team. They had a plan for what they wanted. They told the GM, Ron Poles, this is who we want, make it happen. And it's looking like their plan is coming together.
The Bears should be in the playoffs by 2026. And it should not even be a question.
No.
And if it is, then I will stick by my guns from what I said last year. I'm done with the Bears. Because if you get this type caliber quarterback and you get this type young coach
With
and
a
you
solid,
can't make it work,
then
it's
the organization is flawed.
it's you put the Bears right there with the Jets, the Browns, the Carolina Panthers. It is a poisoned organization. It is a poisoned well.
Yeah.
And it's never going to get better until the team is sold. You have to hope for a Washington-type turnaround where the team is sold, you bring in new ownership, a new attitude.
Yeah.
Yes, I know we're dealing with the death of Virginia McCaskey this year.
Yeah. You kind of wonder if the Bears' struggles didn't begin with the lost coin toss to the Steelers for number 1 overall pick Terry Bradshaw.
Oh, you're going to go that far back? Wow.
Well, you look at the Steelers' rise beginning at that point, coinciding with the Bears beginning their descent.
That's an intriguing question because not only in football but in life, we all think about that. What if I had done this instead of that? But would you really erase Walter Payton, the
No.
85 Bears?
That's not discounting that part. It's just how much of a sustained...
But that all happened before. See, this is where you get into
the butterfly effect.
Yeah, this metaphysical crap. And I would not change anything up until the late 80s. Now, you want to start revisionist history on everything in the late 80s and beyond? Absolutely.
There we go.
I would personally have loved to been in the meetings leading up to the Super Bowl and slapped Lovie Smith and said, "Start Kyle Orton, you stupid bitch."
Keep Grossman on the bench. He is your worst option.
And stop shoving Cedric Benson down our goddamn throats.
God.
Put Thomas Jones in. Orton and Jones.
Game over. Game over, man.
And we're spotting you a 7-point lead with Devin Hester. Sorry, kids.
Side rant.
Ripping open old Bears wounds here.
What the hell were we talking about?
Justin Field.
That's right.
Yep. I do hope for his sake he does well and succeeds.
Yeah.
I love to see these stories. You know I love Baker Mayfield. Even seeing Geno Smith have a modicum of success.
Yeah. We were fans of his coming out. We thought he was going to succeed.
But you get stuck.
And he got in a bad situation after bad situation.
Again, the Jets.
Yeah.
The Jets. It's either the Jets or the Browns. You pick one or the other. Or the Bears.
1A, 1B, 1C.
Yeah. But and Sam Darnold is the latest example. I want him to succeed in Seattle. And everybody's ripping on him about the last 2 games of last season, and I get it.
But they did not have a really good game plan for those last 2 games.
Well, and here's the other thing. Where does his learning curve is so far behind now because of all the time wasted with the Jets and then the Panthers as a backup. And then in San Francisco where he learned, most people think, how to play the position under Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, even though he wasn't starting, but he was there in practice, learning, taking it all in.
Now, this is another step to me for him in the learning process. I think Seattle did very well for themselves.
Yeah, they're going to be all right.
So, as we mentioned, Daniel Jones comes in, competes now with Anthony Richardson. In terms of the openings, will Aaron Rodgers end up with the Steelers? Will he end up with the Giants? Will he end up with the Vikings?
Or will he end up in a cave drinking ayahuasca all season?
And then Russell Wilson has to wait on Aaron Rodgers' decision.
Does he really?
I don't know. And then the backup quarterbacks move around. Jacoby Brissett figures it's better to go to the Cardinals and back up Kyler Murray. Joshua Dobbs will now be the backup in New England to Drake May. So, and then of course trade-wise.
What,
and
Marcus Mariota is back in Washington?
Yes, he stays in Washington. I think the Browns might have pulled off the coup here. And I am not drinking ayahuasca.
No,
smoking it. Do you smoke it or do you drink it?
I've been watching what they've been doing. They're sneaky. They've been sneaky with what they're doing.
They give up a 5th-round pick and the wastoid quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, to the brilliant Eagles for Kenny Pickett. Now, you love Mason Rudolph. I'm telling you right now, I love Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett's got a ring. Remember, that man's got a ring on his finger right now, and it ain't because he married somebody. It's because he is a Super Bowl champion. And even though it was a brief period of time, he stepped in and played well when Jalen Hurts got knocked out.
He did. And again, he was put in a not-so-great situation in Pittsburgh.
Right. And that's the thing.
Pittsburgh has not developed quarterbacks well.
Yep. I was just going to say amen to that.
After Roethlisberger, what have you had?
Yeah, and Roethlisberger's out there saying, I think I might be able to come back. I'm 43. I can do it. All right, so that's it for quarterbacks in terms of the on-field stuff. Now, in terms of the money.
Money.
Because, of course, we all know. Now, in the couple years, I hope the Bears are in this position. Because I will give Ryan Poles a ton of credit for this. Seeing a lot of this stuff going on all over the league. For the Bears to have, barely over $4 million in dead cap space. Not having to renew or revise contracts. Yeah. Push that money back.
Poles has gotten the Bears out of salary cap hell.
Yes.
In a very short period of time.
But now let's talk about the teams that are mortgaging their future. Now, some of them you understand, like Kansas City. We knew this was coming. Kansas City restructures Patrick Mahomes' deal.
Again.
As well as Chris Jones.
This is an annual thing now.
That opened up $49 million in cap space for them.
Converting more of Mahomes' salary to signing bonus.
Yep, and pushing it off into the future, at least with the NFL. And this is why the NFL is king, despite the fact that Roger Goodell tries to destroy it every single chance he gets. You can only push that money out so far.
Yeah.
You can't do the deferred money like the Dodgers are doing with Ohtani.
For 60 years into the future.
Right. So there is a limit to what, that's why I'm saying, you are definitely in NFL mortgaging your future. You're going to have to pay the piper at some point. And you're going to have to take on that dead cap money. The Bills. Josh Allen gets a 6-year, $330 million extension, taking him through 2030 with a new NFL record $250 million guaranteed, the most ever guaranteed for any player in the NFL.
Oof. Oof.
You better get a Super Bowl.
Yeah. If you don't, that's money down the toilet.
And of course, the Browns restructured Deshaun Watson's deal again. And that opened up almost $36 million in cap space for them. Now the Browns
bad
are
money
at least,
after bad money on Watson.
The Browns are doing what the Falcons are doing right now. In that you look at Deshaun Watson as your backup quarterback, even though we know he's not even going to be able to play.
Right.
That's why they've got Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett is going to be your de facto backup quarterback. Just like with Atlanta, people asking why aren't they trading Kirk Cousins because the cap
you need
hit,
a backup, and the cap hit would kill them.
Yeah, the cap hit would kill them. It's better for them to keep an unbelievably high-priced backup because Penix is making relatively next to nothing.
Right. And
that's what the
Penix
Browns
could do worse than learning from Cousins.
Right.
He's got a solid veteran he can rely on to talk to.
And if the Browns, sitting at number 2 in the draft coming up in a little over a month, want to take a quarterback, it will not be cost prohibitive.
Right.
So that's why they can do that. The Chiefs, a little bit different situation. The Chiefs, they are in bed with Mahomes for the next 7, 8 years. And they're just going to keep, like you say, doing this over and over and over again.
Yep. That's what you get when you shell out these long-term, high-price deals.
And I believe I sat down last night and I believe I came up with a number that half the league, 16 of the teams right now, have quarterbacks getting paid above $40 million a year.
Oof.
And again, this is why I said Poles to this point has been smart. He's waiting to see what Caleb Williams turns into.
Yeah.
And he's got that luxury of time. He's got 2 years now, at least 2 years, to see if he develops as he should. Now, with the best possible head coach,
we should see a significant jump.
And now you can't blame the offensive line anymore,
No.
especially if they use that number 10 pick and bring in one of the young offensive tackles. I'm hoping and praying that one of those two offensive tackles projected to be in the top 10 drop to the Bears. And then that offensive line should be near perfect.
Yeah, because you keep your two quote-unquote best offensive linemen from previous years as your rotation guys.
Yep. And I know I've been yapping about Ashton Jonty's
He's
getting
not
to
gonna
the
be
The
there.
Raiders will take him. That's where it will stop.
Yeah.
Is that the Raiders will pair him with Geno Smith.
And there you go.
Yep. All right, some other signings, some other news around the league as we continue to give you our exquisitely intelligent analysis. Davante Adams didn't even wait. This blew me away.
Didn't wait to see where Rodgers was going to go.
Didn't even wait to see what the market was going to be.
Nope, he jumped.
Sunday. This news came out Sunday. Now, officially, the legal tampering started Monday at noon. Davante Adams, this blew me away. Sunday night, Davante Adams commits to the Rams. 2 years, $46 million, $26 million guaranteed. So he basically takes the place of Cooper Kupp.
Yep. Not bad.
So within a week here, the Rams went from worrying about their future to now looking like they could win the West again very easily.
Yeah,
in the
they can
NFC.
compete easily.
Yep. Now we're going to cover most of the teams. All right, so deal with it, kids. As I jump around here, we talked about Cleveland, and remember, Myles Garrett wanted to trade.
I want out. I want to meet with the owner. Not going to happen. Deal with the GM. Okay. Sure. We'll make you the highest paid non-quarterback in the league now, beating Max Crosby's deal from the week before.
Yep. Myles Garrett gets $40 million a year over 4 years in his extension, $123.5 million guaranteed.
Which means the Bengals screwed up again by waiting to sign Jamar Chase.
Here's the thing, kids, and by the way, Myles Garrett now will be with Cleveland if he goes through the entire length of this contract through 2030. This is why I'm feeling better for Cam Ward if he ends up in Cleveland. Now you got Myles Garrett. At least you've got a bedrock leader. They will get rid of Deshaun Watson as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah.
He's still got a shithead for an owner, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, Myles Garrett now, as Dave said, the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And the Bengals opened up their fucking yaps a couple of weeks ago. Their general manager.
We're going to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback.
And now you
waited
have cost
too
yourself.
damn long.
Now you have cost yourself, by all mathematical accounts, $25 to $30 million. Whereas if you'd gotten this done 3 weeks ago, it would have been a couple million. Now
you're screwed.
Now you're going to have to jump up over $40 million a year to
For
get
a
Jamar
receiver.
Chase.
You idiot.
Congratulations for yapping and setting yourself up. Again, this is what the Bengals do. They either don't spend money or they commit themselves to stupid money. And Trey Hendrickson is still out there.
Yeah. Nobody's picked him up yet.
Amazing. I love this time of year. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Gee, what kind of discount can the Bears get Hendrickson on?
What about Von Miller still out there? Von Miller, released by the Bills, opening up $8.4 million in cap space.
You want to bridge a leadership gap?
Just 1 year. Just sign him for 1 year.
And still some nasty and still some leadership.
Now, we talked about all these other quarterbacks that have restructured their deals. We knew this one was coming as well. The Saints restructured Derek Carr's deal. They opened up $30.9 million in cap space.
They're still in cap hell, though.
But I did check today. Everybody has...
They're all under?
As they are supposed to be at the start of the new league year. They all made it. They all made it.
It's all a shell game, kids.
The Jaguars trade in their own division. I am worried about the Jaguars. I don't. And believe me, Liam Cohen. For what he did last year with the Bucs, continuing on with what Dave Canales did with Baker Mayfield, can't hate him. But then Duval, and Shad Khan is one of the worst owners in the league.
Bad.
So they trade their number 2 receiver, Christian Kirk, to the Texans. Because, of course, the Texans let Stephon Diggs go, by the way, still out there.
Yeah, he should stay out there. Nobody should touch Diggs. He is a cancer. We've talked about it time and time again.
So the Jags trade Christian Kirk to the Texans for a 2026 7th-round pick. That is that is the worst compensation you can give. You can't trade 2027 picks. That's why I'm saying the NFL limits. It's not like the NBA where you can, I'll give you a 2032 first-round pick. The NFL limits this. So a 2026 7th-round pick is the absolute lowest common denominator for compensation you could give right now. So
I think the Texans won that one.
Christian Kirk will now fill the gap left by the departed Stephon Diggs and the injured Tank Dell. So congratulations, Jacksonville. You just helped the division winner get right back on their feet again. And then they cut one of the better tight ends in the league, Evan Ingram.
Go figure.
Yeah, but we're paying Trevor Lawrence $55 million a year.
Now, didn't Ingram go to the Broncos?
He did just sign today, yes. Evan Ingram goes to the Broncos.
Gee, there's a nice pairing of tight ends.
2 years, $25 million, $16.5 million guaranteed. Give Bo Nix another weapon. And this is why I don't understand what the Raiders are doing. I admire them for bringing in Pete Carroll. I admire them for trying with Geno Smith. They're still going to finish last in that division, no matter how much better they get. How much they improve, they're still going to be last. Because they're not jumping the Broncos. They're not jumping the Chargers. They're not jumping the Chiefs.
No.
That is a brutal, brutal division. And I am shocked at how little the Chargers have done.
Oh, the Chargers have been non-existent in this.
The only move that I have seen of significance, now they brought back Khalil Mack on a 1-year deal. I believe $18 million for 1 year with Khalil Mack. And then they decided to sort of upgrade their running back position. as they bring in Najee Harris from the Steelers, 1 year, $9.25 million deal. The Vikings, I'll tell you something. The Vikings, if it wasn't for the fact that they don't know who the hell's going to be throwing the ball
Yeah.
to
Will
Justin
McCarthy
Jefferson,
be ready or not?
outside of that, wow, they had a great couple of days here. And I'm telling you, the Packers and the Lions better be worried about the Bears and the Vikings. Especially if J.J. McCarthy turns out to be...
halfway decent?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Vikings
are stacked.
The Vikings did exactly the same thing as the Chicago Bears. Building from the inside out. Vikings steal not one, but two offensive linemen from the Indianapolis Colts. And again, the Colts are going to be a train wreck. The Houston Texans should be able to sleep through the entire season and win that division with the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Titans.
God, that's a trash division.
Vikings bring in center Ryan Kelly on 2 years, $18 million, and then guard Will Freeze, 5 years, $88 million. So they solidify, just like the Bears, the interior of their offensive line, and then they decide, let's get a couple defensive tackles. Let's get a couple mean hogs in the middle. They get Jonathan Allen from the Commanders, 3 years, $60 million, and Javon Hargrave, 2 years, $30 million.
Yep. Smart moves.
Yep.
And then the Niners just decimated themselves.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. The good teams, and even though everybody a few weeks ago was crowing and touting about the Eagles and how well they had maneuvered around the salary cap, they still lost a lot.
Too. The Eagles and the 49ers have not fared very well to this point.
No, the Eagles lost a ton of guys on the defensive side of the ball, as did San Francisco. So I think what we're going to see this year with both Nick Sirianni and with Kyle Shanahan is how good they are.
Yeah.
As head
Are
coaches,
you a good coach or not?
especially with Kyle Shanahan. Sirianni, he's probably earned a couple years now of good grace.
A little bit of a
with
reprieve.
Winning. Now, Doug Peterson, they threw him out the door real quick after winning a Super Bowl.
One and done after that?
Yeah, so we'll see. But I think...
You know how fickle Philly fans are.
Say that 10 times fast.
Exactly.
Fickle Philly fans. Fickle Philly fans. Shanahan's the one.
He's got to be on the hot seat.
He needs to have a great year this year and get back into the playoffs after this past year. And it relies on Christian McCaffrey staying healthy.
Yeah,
and
good luck with that.
And then we still have not heard about any extension for Brock Purdy.
No, that's the thing. They're supposedly opening up cap space to pay Purdy. Well, what are you going to do? Because you lost your quarterback coach in Brian Griese when he left in February.
Yeah, so very, very interesting things going on. New England shored up their defense with a lot of big-time signings. Harold Landry coming over from the Titans, of course. Vrabel bringing over one of his old guys.
Yep. Bills picked up Joey Bosa, shoring up their defense. Will he stay healthy in a new environment?
They brought in kind of, sort of another weapon for Josh Allen. They bring in Joshua Palmer over from the Chargers. I don't know how much of an upgrade that is. And what does that say about Amari Cooper?
What have I been saying about Amari Cooper since he was drafted? That he's overrated. You can't count on him.
Yeah, because if they decided Joshua Palmer was a better option than Amari Cooper or Stephon Diggs, bringing him back, God
no
help
way
you.
In hell.
Yeah, there's no way they were bringing him back. But you have got now the Ravens brought in on a 1-year, $5 million deal DeAndre Hopkins. So pair him
Now
with
the
Zay
mercenary.
Flowers. We'll see how that works out for 1 year with the Ravens. At least they give Lamar Jackson a little bit more to work with. Cardinals. This is where we're talking about the. Let's talk for a minute about these guys on the defensive side of the ball. The Eagles lost. Cardinals steal Josh Sweat. Again, probably the better Sweat.
At this point,
Because Montez ain't impressing me with the Bears.
Montez has been a disappointment since he signed that deal coming over. This first year, solid. Looked like he's going to be worth it. This second year was a disaster. Maybe that's the Eberflus effect.
So Josh Sweat comes over from the Eagles, goes to the Cardinals. 4 years, $76.4 million, $41 million guaranteed.
Oh, wouldn't it have been fun, though, to have the Sweat brothers?
No, because I don't like having one. I don't want two. Right now,
Maybe one would have elevated the other.
I cannot tell you how upset I get year after year with the Bears and signing these supposed defensive studs to these huge deals.
Peppers, disaster.
Quinn
Disaster.
had one good year. Peppers had Jarrett. Remember they tried to
Jared
the
Allen.
reclamation project with Jared Allen.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it.
Khalil Mack was a disappointment.
He was better than those other guys, though. You got to admit that.
Yeah.
But there was a reason why they traded him away. If he was that damn good, they wouldn't have traded him away. You have to grow your talent through the draft.
Yep.
You have to. That's where the 85 Bears came from, was the draft.
You've got your stopgap guys in place now. Now you draft the top linemen on both sides of the ball.
Who's the best player on the Bears defense?
I like Jalen Johnson myself.
I do believe the Bears drafted him, did they not?
They did.
Thank you. I agree with you completely. This is what I'm saying. I'm trying to prove a point here. You didn't have to stutter and stammer. You could have just said, God damn it, Kev, Jalen Johnson. And I would have said, God damn right, Conquistador. Drafted. Bears drafted him.
The one development piece that they got right.
Yeah, but see now what
But
they've
he
done.
had good talent too. He was a top corner coming out.
But what they have also done is they have overreached on salary once they drafted a guy.
Yes.
Eddie Jackson comes to mind, where he looks good and they throw a ton of money at him, and then he completely
Jalen
falls
got
off.
paid and stayed at that high level.
Right.
Jalen's playing with a chip on his shoulder too.
Yep. So, lessons to be learned here as we go through free agency, and again, about 6 weeks away from the NFL draft. I think I've covered most.
I think we got
most of the
big stuff.
Yeah. So anything I have missed, I'm sure we'll pick up next week. I don't know if we have any late breaking news. Of course, everybody, as we mentioned, waiting on Aaron Rodgers.
Hang on, let me do a quick check here before we sign this
I will
off.
pick up some last minute pieces here. Seattle, the Seahawks again did a good job with their defense. They pick up former Cowboys pass rusher DeMarcus Lawrence, 3 years, $42 million.
Cornerback Slay leaves the Eagles and joins the Steelers on a 1-year deal.
They cut him though.
Yeah.
They cut him,
but
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but that is another instance of the Eagles losing a solid player. They also traded safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Texans. So another little ding there on their defense. Washington, the Commanders, you had Laramie Tunsil with the Miami Dolphins. And then he went to the Texans.
Gas mask boy?
Yes. And many people say, oh, that was propaganda. That was just people trying to tear him down and ruin his draft stock. Then why do people keep getting rid of him? Because the Texans now have traded him to the Commanders for a 2025 third-round pick and a seventh-round pick and a 2026 second-round pick and a fourth-round pick.
That's too much to give up for him.
Now, Washington did also get a 2025 fourth-rounder from the Texans, and they've got spreadsheets in that you pretty much know what guys are worth.
Yeah.
Which is disgusting. It's a little bit of that analytics creeping into football. But if Laramie Tunsil is this great...
Why is he not sticking with the team long term?
He's already on his third team.
Yeah, and that's not a good situation.
And people don't give up on good left tackles.
No, they do not.
One of the most important positions on the team. So, something to think about. The Carolina Panthers. Now, I want to go back a few years ago. Back when the Buccaneers were really bad. Okay? This was between the glory days of, John Gruden with Lynch and Sapp and that team that won the Super Bowl. And then they had the Jameis Winston years. Right? And now they're back up again with Baker Mayfield. But there was a time when the Glazer family didn't want to invest in the team. I don't know if it was because they were focused on the soccer team, because I think they own Manchester United. Yeah. There is, and Dave and I always talk about this in baseball, there is a floor in football. You have to spend a certain amount of money. So the Buccaneers were giving out extensions and contracts to guys where I was going, really?
Why?
Why are you keeping this guy for 5 years?
Because we have to spend a league minimum.
I think that's what we're seeing here with what the Panthers did with cornerback J.C. Horn. Because the Panthers really didn't do much here in free agency. No. They cut Miles Sanders, which you could see coming a mile away. They've committed to Chuba Hubbard. But let's give J.C. Horn 4 years and $100 million.
Why?
$70 million guaranteed through 2029, making him the highest paid defensive back in history.
And he's not one of the most talented secondary players in history.
No. And I don't even know if I'd say he's the best right now. I'd say probably Patrick Surtain in Denver comes to mind as the best cornerback probably. But this is an example of the Panthers having to spend enough
to meet the floor.
Yes, to meet legitimacy in terms of the NFL standards. Speaking of which, the money going... Now, we've talked about wide receivers here over the last 40 minutes. We've talked about the fact that Stephon Diggs is still out there. Amari Cooper is still out there. Now Cooper Kupp is out there. How do the New York Giants decide? Again, another team without a quarterback, unless you want to count Tommy Cutlets. Tommy DeVito.
It's DeVito. Come on.
Now, they just drafted Malik Neighbors last year, and despite the awful quarterback play, he looked great. Malik Neighbors looks like
he's a legit receiver.
Right. But they decide, the Giants, to give Darius Slayton 3 years, $36 million in an extension. Can I please tell you what Darius Slayton's numbers were last year?
Oh, please do.
Keep in mind, just got 3 years, $36 million for this production. 39 catches, 573 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that warrants an extension. In nobody's league.
The Rams keeping Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup to Matthew Stafford. There were people talking about him possibly being in play to jump back in somewhere with the Giants, possibly as a starter. Pittsburgh. I think Jimmy G is just happy.
Jimmy G is a backup.
Jimmy G wants to cash a paycheck and date porno stars. That's all Jimmy G wants. And God bless him. God bless America. You can't put a tariff on porno stars, okay?
The president knows that. First ball account.
Hey, what do you think he's going to do in the back seat of that new Tesla he's got? Sorry, Melania. I love you. Sorry. I think Melania would kick his ass. She's a bad woman. She's a bad, bad woman. And I mean that in the best possible way. All right, I think that might actually do it. I think we might actually be done.
I think we have.
I never promised you a rose garden. I never promised you every single freaking transaction. But I think we hit all of the most important ones.
I think we did. Good Lord.
All right, so let's deal with...
That's been a wild couple of days, kids.
Yeah, and then next week we will discuss where Aaron Rodgers ends up, where Russell Wilson ends up, where all these second-tier veterans end up, these wide receivers we've been talking about. You know Dave and I will cover it next week. A couple things in college football. Oregon head coach Dan Lanning got a new 6-year deal. This is one of those things where they basically tore up his old contract.
Yeah.
Just to give him more money. So now he is getting $11 million a year with Oregon.
This is getting ridiculous.
And then Eddie George. I do recall, didn't the Bears interview Eddie George?
He did get an interview.
For the head coaching job? Well, now he is taking over at Bowling Green.
Good for him.
Returning to Ohio. Of course, he was a stud running back at Ohio State. So there you go, kids. There is your college football news of the week. Baseball? Little tiny bit of baseball.
Little bit of baseball.
And it's bad news for New York baseball yet again.
Oh, the Yankees' woes continue. Their ace, Garrett Cole, gone for this season and part of next with Tommy John surgery. Felt the twinge in the elbow in preseason. MRI and second opinion confirm. Gotta replace that little tendon.
And every time, and I'm not trying to mock it, but we're not gonna go off on the big tangent. We do this every once in a while. Dave and I talk about what the hell has happened to these players. Why do they fall apart where the old school players never did? But all I think of any time with the Tommy John stuff is Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, my arm!
That's all I can think of. Because it just becomes so comical. And I hate it. Now, I have no...
It should not be this common. It shouldn't. Are these guys working out so much that everything is so tight? Whereas before the guys didn't work out all that much and they threw and were just more loosey-goosey? Let me
put it to you this way. Best young pitcher out there right now by a mile is what? Paul Skeens, right?
Yeah.
How many years till he has to have Tommy John surgery?
2.
So are the Pirates going to do the smart thing and trade him before his arm basically falls off and he has to have TJ surgery? People rip on the Pirates, and we rip on them all the time, along with all these other terrible, pathetic owners and teams. The Rockies,
the White Sox,
the Marlins, where they don't spend the money. But at the same time, the Pirates at least develop really good players.
They just don't pay them.
Right.
To be contenders anymore.
They ship them out before they have to pay them. But with a pitcher, different dynamic. Do you get rid of Skeens before his arm blows
Or
out?
do you teach him how to be a pitcher and not throw max velocity all the time?
Yeah. I mean, that arm is not getting a workout because he's got Livy Dunn.
Exactly.
So, he's not doing the old one-handed shuffle very often.
Or is he if she's in training?
No, let me show you how it's done. She's a gymnast, come on! There should be no work needed here. No training needed.
Double backflips and never mind.
Pommel horse.
He is the pommel horse.
Now I got pictures of her just slapping some chalk on her hands.
Oh, God. Wow, that went by quickly.
That's why we are politically incorrect. But things in New York in baseball are not just limited to bad stuff with the Yankees.
Nope.
The New York Mets, who are already down 2 pitchers in their starting rotation, with Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas, now have lost their starting young catcher, Francisco Alvarez, for 6 to 8 weeks with a broken bone in his hand.
Ouch. Oh.
Well, yeah. I hate the evil empire. And I hate all things New York. But the one team we should now be rooting against, all baseball fans collectively, the LA Dodgers.
We've been rooting collectively against them for years now.
Well, who I still think is one of the most overrated managers in all of baseball, Dave Roberts. Yes, he does have 2 rings.
Yeah, but look at the friggin' lineup he's been given.
He just got a 4-year, $32.4 million extension because the Cubs can't be number 1 in anything. Because, of course, Dave Roberts now is going to be averaging $8.1 million a year. Just a little bit more than Craig Counsell's $8 million. And by the way...
Yeah, well, Craig, time to put up or shut up.
That's just what I was going to say. Craig Counsell, that division is trash. Even without getting a third baseman, the Cubs should have no problem winning it this year.
Shouldn't.
And if they don't win the NL Central this year, then that money flushed down the toilet. I have faith in him, though. I do. And a guy that you like, who I think is going to end up having a ridiculously unbelievable year, Pete Crow Armstrong.
Oh, PCA is insane.
I mean,
that kid is phenomenal.
If he gets a little bit more pop in the bat.
Did you see, was it a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that little bloop single he hit turned it into an inside the Parker?
I'm telling you, he's guaranteed 50 stolen bases, and I'm talking bare minimum.
Yeah.
If he can hit 270, 50 stolen bases, 15 home runs.
Increase the walks.
He wasn't bad last year.
He got better. He was awful when he first came up. He's starting to learn how to take the walks.
He is my hope for the team.
Oh my
he
God,
is my hope for the team.
That kid is phenomenal.
Because
I am jealous
I feel,
of you guys having him.
You know how I feel about Ian Happ. You know how I feel about Seiya Suzuki. At least they kept Nico Horner.
As they should have.
I like the infield. Again, third base is a question mark.
Shaw broke camp with him.
He's going to Japan.
Yep.
By the way, next week we will be talking about regular season baseball.
God
Unfortunately,
help us.
because the Cubs and Dodgers 2-game series will be in the books by the time Dave and I record next week.
Exhibition games that count.
The Cubs better win the first one, is all I'm going to say. They got Yamamoto against Imanaga, where I think the Cubs could definitely have the pitching advantage there. Second game, forget it. Sasaki
is
against Steele, and I heard Steele got just absolutely destroyed in his last start. So
we'll see.
Baseball's coming, kids. Baseball is coming. But, of course, I got yelled at last week because I waited too long.
I was going to say, are we hitting the NBA and the NHL next?
No, because I did that last week and you got mad at me. Even though I tried to explain myself that I was trying to build up tension for NASCAR.
I was prepared for it this week.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
Last week I had NASCAR second. It's down the list.
No.
Bastard.
No.
Figure out what the hell you're going to do.
So before Dave gets all up in my grill again about the sequence of events here, I didn't even talk about my beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Here on Spotify, Good Pods, Pocket Casts, Apple, Overcast, CastBox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
Otherwise known as iHeartRadio. Notice how he did that?
Bonus coverage here.
Don't forget to check out the Facebook page. Each and every weekend we will have our NASCAR picks, and coming up very soon, our weekly baseball picks.
God help us.
We will fill you in on how the Field of Frenzy works here in just a few weeks. The 2 games we discussed here a few months ago.
March Madness. Oh my God.
We got March Madness again. We're not posting our brackets. We're not doing that. But yeah, the 2 games in Japan, the Cubs-Dodgers, will not count towards our Field of Frenzy competition.
I think we need to post everybody's finals picks.
I might be able to do that. I might be able to pull that off. I'm more worried, as you know. That's coming up this week is my week from hell, where I've got to do NASCAR and I've got to do the brackets, get ready for baseball. One of the busiest weeks in the year on the Sports Frenzy calendar. See, now you're distracting me, trying to get me from talking about my Buccaneers.
Almost worked.
Buccaneers, because you're mad because they did better than your Dolphins.
Everybody does better than the Dolphins, except for maybe the Jets.
You always have that.
I'll always have the Jets.
Yes. Buccaneers retain guard Ben Bredesen, 3 years, $22 million. They bring back Chris Godwin. This is huge.
That is phenomenal.
3 years, $66 million, $44 million guaranteed. Here's the thing, kids. He left $20 million on the table from another undisclosed team to stay in Tampa.
He likes the team. He likes Baker.
He likes working with Mike Evans. Almost said Chris Evans. Yeah, what am I thinking of? Captain America?
Yeah. No. Evans and Godwin are a great tandem.
Yes. They kept the defense intact. They kept Levante David for 1 more year. $10 million. Levante David, one of the most undervalued, underappreciated, long-term Buccaneers. The thing about the Buccaneers, these guys are loyal to this organization. I'm telling you.
They are.
The Glazers do treat people very, very well. If you're a Buck, they will try to make you a Buck for life. And they actually bring in a man who was causing the Jets all sorts of problems. Hopefully now he's getting paid. He will not be a problem for the Bucks. And that is one Hassan Reddick. Hassan Chop! Hassan Reddick, 1 year, $14 million deal.
This is a prove to me that you want to play deal.
Yep. Here's the thing I don't understand. Can I just ask you? So he gets a 1 year, $14 million deal. $12 million guaranteed. It's a 1 year deal. I don't understand how a 1 year deal is not fully guaranteed.
Maybe if he gets hurt and they cut his ass, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that would be it.
I mean, if he decides he's not going to play, it gives him a little bit of wiggle room.
I just don't understand how a 1-year deal is not 100% guaranteed.
I don't
know
get
this
it
is
either.
not the only time I've seen this.
I know, it's weird.
Okay. Thanks for indulging me and letting me do a little jumping back, finishing up with the NFL. Like I said, a lot of stuff going on. I was worried I wasn't going to get to all of it. And of course I didn't. And I skipped over my second favorite team.
It happens.
So now we move on to NASCAR. We move on to a recap of last weekend's Phoenix race, and we give you our picks for this upcoming weekend's Las Vegas race. But, I swear to God,
Every fucking time we finish, big news breaks so we don't get to cover it.
I swear to God, 5 seconds after we recorded last week's episode and talking about the penalties. You brought up the penalties for Austin Cindric and Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I brought up Chase Briscoe.
Waiting for the appeal to go through.
And it did. And they
Right after we were done taping. Bastards.
And it was overturned.
Yep.
The penalty was overturned. So Chase Briscoe gets his 100 points reinstated.
The team gets the points reinstated. No penalty for the crew chief. All is good.
So now Briscoe actually has somewhat of a reasonable chance to get in the top 16 on points and get in the playoffs.
Yep.
Although he did not look very good at Phoenix.
No, looked very, very bad.
I don't like people who do that. When you give somebody a second chance and right
then
out of
they
the gate they shit the
piss
bed.
it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was expecting Chase Briscoe. Hey man, I got all those points back.
Oh, let's
coming
go!
out like a ball on fire, and
You would have expected a top 10 finish from that team.
yeah. He is not doing what I thought he would do early on, having that 19 car. I expected a lot better from him.
Yeah, that 19 team is better than that.
Yep. Then, of course, we know that eventually, unfortunately, more sooner than we would like, especially this year going forward, we're going to see the end of the Fox coverage. And then it's going to shift over to Prime Video. But now we have finally found a job for Uncle Carl. Carl Edwards is coming out of his shell, coming off the farm. And he will end up being one of the main analysts for Amazon in their Prime Video coverage of the races.
He's done some in the past. He's not horrible. There are worse. So, we'll see.
I believe they said they're also bringing Trevor Bain in as a pit side reporter.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
But we'll see. We will see. I have not watched any of the qualifying since Prime Video took that over. Because now you have to watch all the qualifying on Prime Video. So
yeah, whatever. Whatever.
So then we move on to Phoenix. And the I'd forgotten all about the option tires
So did I,
right before I flipped the race on.
It's
and
like,
they mentioned it.
they're starting on the Reds.
Yeah, and Larry McReynolds is going, he's whacking off to the excitement of the option tires. Old Larry Mack. What did I tell you guys about the option
We got the
tires?
soft compounds, which are going to be a ball of lightning right off the bat, and for a short run, it's going to be phenomenal. The speeds are going to carry. But then you got to have the regulars for the long runs. Yeah.
And a lot of people I saw were complaining about the fact that this is all just a ploy to make guys like Ryan Preece and Ty Dillon get their cars up front when they pull the stunt with throwing on the option tires before everybody else, and they jet up to the front, and so their sponsors and their teams look good.
And then
they get extra coverage.
Whoop, right on back down the line.
Right, because all the other teams basically saved their option tires for the third stage.
Except for Logano, who got behind early
because of
and
a penalty.
Needed to use them.
Yeah, because he was leading, but he dove down just a little bit too quickly on a restart.
Yep.
Got nailed for a penalty, which was good for us because that gave William Byron the first
stage win. That car was disappointing down the stretch.
I will say this. This is what I expected out of William Byron. This is what I don't expect him to win. I'm sorry. I still don't think he has the killer instinct he needs.
No. But it was a solid top 5.
We got a ton of points.
Yeah, we got a ton of points. He wound up 6th.
That's what I expected.
He wound up 6th.
But we got a ton of points.
We did. It was a good points day.
But who would have thought? We didn't.
3 Mrs. C did.
Yep.
3 in a row for Mr. Bell.
Talk about a guy who you don't think has a killer instinct. He definitely does.
Yeah, and it's showing through what he does on the short tracks in the sprint cars and the midgets that he likes to race. Now it's transitioning. You're seeing it in the Cup Series.
But is he peaking too quickly, too soon?
I don't think so. This might be one of those years we haven't seen anybody super dominant in a long time as they've transition next gen after next gen cars, all the rule changes they keep making. This year, the rules seem to be fairly stable for what the cars are. Maybe it hit on his driving style now, because 3 different types of tracks so far.
Yeah, I would say obviously he is the most dominant car. Byron is probably second. Everybody else very inconsistent. The two names when I looked at the point standings that jumped out at me, Keselowski. Oh my God, what an abysmal year he's off to. I mean, you got guys like Daniel Suarez. I don't expect a lot out of him, but he made the playoffs last year.
He got 1 win that put him in the playoffs.
Right. Now, we already talked about Austin Cindric. He's buried back in the pack. So I've seen some unusual names up at the front in the top 16. And we'll talk about one of those at the end of the show. But yeah, Christopher Bell, 3 in a row. First time that's been done since Kyle Larson in 2021. So very interesting. Dave, I love women. I do. I love women.
Yes, they're beautiful.
They are. Shapely, gorgeous, you know.
The female body is a work of art.
Yes. Catherine Legge, not good. Not good. Not good. Not good at all. Terrible. We made a big deal last week about talking about how she was the first female driver to race in the Cup Series since Danica Patrick. She did not do anything to accentuate the female in terms of their skill in the Cup Series. That's the best way I can put it.
She did not have a good run.
She fell behind so quickly.
And then made a horrible mistake.
Spun out a couple times.
Spun out in the wrong spot. Yeah.
Just no.
Not a good
She
debut.
did not belong on that track.
No.
I am sorry.
No, she did not.
She did not. She didn't. So, and that's a shame. I would love to see, this is a sport where a woman should be able to succeed.
Yeah.
But they won't put my future wife in the Cup Series. The beautiful Hailie Deegan. The future Mrs. Crane. I don't understand it.
It's still the old boys club.
I know. But where we talk about men's sports versus women's sports, and like with basketball, they're split as they should be.
Yep.
But racing shouldn't be like that.
No, it shouldn't. It's probably the most level playing field you could have.
Yeah. And that boggles my mind how we have not had a woman succeed in racing to the level, in at least in the Cup Series or NASCAR, that they should.
Yeah.
That's just,
Alas.
I'm trying to help you out, ladies. I'm trying to help you out. My future wife and I, we're trying to help you. Haley and I are trying our best.
See, now what works on the NHRA circuit,
Yeah. Look at John Force's
daughters.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah. Mrs. Stewart is a hell of a driver.
Yes. Yep. And Mrs. Crane, if they give her a chance, if they gave my girl Haley a chance.
But alas.
Yeah, don't believe everything you read on the internet. She and I are a thing. Don't pay attention to that rock on her finger. Don't. No. Don't worry.
Delusions of grandeur here next to me.
All right, so that leads us into our picks for race 5.
Staying in the desert.
Coming up this Sunday, March the 16th, 2025, the Pennzoil 400 from Las Vegas. And I believe you and I
again
know who the king of Las Vegas is. It ain't Elvis, it ain't Frank Sinatra.
Nope, and Nick and Aaron agree with us.
And Bill.
And Bill, yes. So 5 of the 8 are going with Mr. Kyle Larson.
Nobody took Christopher Bell, by the way.
No. 4.
Boy, if he goes 4 in a row.
Really? You're going to go rival Mr. October, Harry Gant, the Skull Bandit.
What, I think they said Bill Elliott was the last one?
Yeah, but I think twice Harry Gant did it. In October, 2 years in a row, won 4 straight.
But the most recent
was
Bill
Elliott.
Back in 92?
Yeah.
93? That was right when I was just... You pulled me into NASCAR right about that time. Yep. Because I don't even remember Bill Elliott winning 4 in a row. I don't.
Vaguely. Yeah, was he driving the McDonald's for
I'm sure he was.
Junior Johnson at that point?
Yep. All right, so 5 picks for Kyle Larson. Now, kids, I promise you this. Next week, Miami Homestead, everybody's going to be all over the board.
Place.
We're finally going to see some dissension. The first 5 races they set up here, kind of milquetoast in terms of who dominates these tracks.
Yeah, Miami, that throws everything out the window.
Yep. Sam, I thought Sam again would go with us.
So did I.
But I'm
surprised.
He goes with Ross Chastain. I'd love to see the Melon Man win. I would.
But not this week.
Yeah. Not at the expense of Kyle Larson.
Yep. Mrs. C, Jen's taken Tyler Reddick. He's been running well. And then Doug going with William Byron. So, solid picks.
Yep.
Just one stands above the others.
Yep. And we are going to, as I mentioned, I believe starting next week, we're going to start seeing a lot more in terms of picks all over the place, all over the board. I do believe that. We'll finally start seeing things get a little nutsy, cuckoo, crazy here in the Frenzy Cup competition. Yep. But Mrs. C, got to give her credit. 2 wins already.
Oof. From none last year to 2 early. Come on.
Yep. Well, this is how it goes.
Yep.
This is why I tell everybody, don't have a knee-jerk reaction, Bill, to everything that happens when you have one bad year or somebody has one bad year and we should do something. No, because the snowflakes didn't get in, and we may have to make sure everybody's included. It's the Sports Frenzy DEI.
That's what you get from Sports Frenzy West.
Yeah. Sports Frenzy East, you get the Donald Trump of Sports Frenzy East here. I'll put a tariff on your ass if you continue to give me a hard time. Oh, I know Dave's about ready to punch me right now.
My eye is twitching.
All right, you want to talk about basketball, right? So let's talk about basketball.
LeBron James pulled a groin.
And he did it while he was playing the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics beat the LA Lakers this past Saturday, 111-101. Again, everything's got to be a record. Most watched non-Christmas Day regular season game in 7 years. Sorry, I didn't watch it.
Neither did I.
Average tickets for the game in Boston, by the way?
1,200.
Not quite, but still. $731.
The average ticket price. That's fucking stupid. How...
I think cheapest seat to get in was over $400.
There's no fucking way. That's dumber than hell.
For a regular season NBA game.
How is the average fan supposed to go? This is what you get. I hope you're happy.
Well, as you said, LeBron got hurt. His groin he got hurt. So he's out 1 to 2 weeks. Was it the groin or
the abductor?
I heard groin. So he's out 1 to 2 weeks. Jalen Brunson of the Knicks, he's got an ankle issue. He's out 2 weeks. The Magic suck, 30-36. Cavaliers are awesome, which I still, if you'd gone back to the beginning of the NBA season, as little as we pay attention, I never would have said. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 55-10. And they are right now running on a 15-game winning streak.
They are just clicking.
And we talked about this last week. I would love to see
Cleveland, Oklahoma City,
or Cleveland, Denver. I know you like the Celtics, but I'm always big on seeing the smaller markets.
Let's get the underdog teams out there.
I swear to God, if the fucking Lakers make the finals, I'm done.
Then it's rigged.
The fix is in. Steph Curry has not retired. His Golden State Warriors playing very, very, very well with the addition of Jimmy Buckets. I would not want to be the guy who rented him a place to live in California based on the stuff we talked about last week in Miami. But
yeah, maybe he's just living in a tent in the alley behind the arena.
I don't think so. But Steph Curry has taken on a side gig. Steph Curry will be the assistant general manager for basketball at Davidson College, his alma mater.
Yeah, why not?
So he is going to be the first active player ever to take on an administrative role outside of his NBA gig.
Setting up his future.
And I do like Steph. I do. He is the man,
he's
for better or for worse, that changed the game to what it is now.
He's one of the classier players that are out there.
Well, he's the greatest shooter ever. You cannot dispute it. He is the greatest pure shooter ever.
Yeah.
But that has led to what we're getting now in the NBA, where it's all three-pointers all the time.
As you mentioned off mic when we were talking about Rex Grossman and Jameis Winston, Steph Curry has led the NBA to be, fuck it, I'm going to chuck it.
Yep, but nobody can do it as well as him.
No.
Nope. All right, college basketball, we mentioned. Next week is the big week, kids. Next week, March Madness begins.
The chaos will reign.
So you got these fights going on for the number 1 seeds. Number 1 Auburn lost in overtime to number 7 Alabama this past Saturday. I like Alabama. I like Alabama a lot.
Sneaky.
But Duke is now the new number one, your top 5 in the AP poll. Duke, Houston, Auburn, Florida, Alabama. The SEC looking at as many as 14 teams to make the big dance. North Carolina State fired their head coach, Kevin Keats. If you recall, they made the Final Four last year.
They did. My, how the tide changes.
Yep. So Notre Dame just got knocked out of the ACC tournament. Their season now probably done. 15-18. Miami, of course, 7-24. They did win their final game after the announcement of Jay Lucas taking over. He was introduced, and he says we're looking at a, quote,
complete overhaul.
a big overhaul, unquote. Yeah. He's expecting an entirely new roster next year.
And with the transfer portal, that's entirely possible now.
All right. So I love to rip on my daily Yahoo newsletter, otherwise known as Snowflake News. Snowflake Sports News, I should say.
There you go.
But I will on occasion, and I'm going to bring them up later.
Of course you are.
But on occasion, they do put out some interesting stuff. This is something I did not know, and I just want to bounce this off of you. Sticking with basketball, but now we're going to go down to the high school level. Did you realize, I did not know this, in 20 states, there is no shot clock.
Really?
Yes, in 20 states, out of our 50 states.
No shot clock at the high school
level. You want to know why?
level.
No shot clock. And you want to know why? Cost prohibitive.
To add a shot clock?
It costs between $3,000 and $10,000 to put a shot clock in a gymnasium.
At the top of each basket.
And then have somebody running it every game. And
well, where the hell's your student managers who do it for free?
Do you really want to trust your student manager to do this? But no, I was blown away because they were talking about how, remember the old school NCAA basketball days where they'd run the four corners?
Oh,
offense?
yeah. That was Digger's.
They're still doing it in high school in these 20 states.
Oh my God.
There was a game that was like 4-2.
Oh, come on.
No, I am not kidding you. You can look it up.
That is pathetic.
That's why you don't have a uniform system across the country. But again, 20 states out of our 50 have no shot clock in high school basketball.
That's bad.
Yep.
That's bad.
All right. I was going to do Frenzy 5-0 this week, but I will give it to you, but I have to, at the same time, back off. I thought we were going to have a big crime story to discuss with wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, Xavier Worthy.
I was ready for that, but alas.
Well, and I think it's a good thing. Xavier Worthy was arrested in Texas initially for felony domestic violence, but no charges will be filed. You and I have talked about this over the years.
Wait for the investigation to be completed.
Yes. Sorry, ladies. You can't drive in cup, and you're not always the innocent flowers that you portray yourselves to be.
Nope, it was called upon him, but he, turns out, I believe reports are he was acting in self-defense.
Yep. So, I love the ladies, but you ain't perfect. Can I do my Clint Eastwood badasses?
Sure.
All right. Both are in basketball. First up, Nikola Jokic. You and I don't like basketball.
No.
And you yell at me all the time and say, why do we cover basketball?
Much time as we spend on it. We spend almost as much time on basketball as we do the NFL.
Oh, that's a lie. That's a lie.
As much as we don't like the NBA, that's second. We spend more time on the NBA than we do NASCAR.
That's close. That one's close. Or baseball. No way in hell. We spend more time on the NFL than everything by a mile.
It was hyperbole.
Yes. Nikola Jokic, though, I look at these stat lines, I look at these numbers he puts up, and I'm wondering if we're not missing watching one of the greatest players ever. Nikola Jokic this past week put up the first ever 30-20-20 triple-double in NBA history. He had a game where he had 31 points, 21 rebounds, and 22 assists.
That's insane. The guy's a monster.
Now, he's got the one ring. He's won the MVP 3 times. Should have won it 4 if it wasn't for the racist Kendrick Perkins.
Douchebag!
Convincing everybody, we need to give it to Joel Embiid. We can't give it to the white guy.
Joel Embiid can't carry Djokovic's jock.
I agree. So now, with this game, with the way he's played here recently, now it's a neck and neck between him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the MVP. Could Jokic get his 4th?
Ooh.
And by the way,
very interesting.
I'm very happy the fact that now with the Nuggets starting to get on a run and the Lakers stumbling, Nuggets have moved past the Lakers into that 2nd seed in the West. And a shout out, my other Clint Eastwood badass of the week, to, get this, High Point. High Point. What the hell are you talking about, Maestro? High Point is a school in the Big South Conference.
Okay.
In NCAA basketball. They just qualified for their first ever men's tournament bid. They're going to be in the bracket, Dave.
Good for them.
And
at one of the play-ins?
Probably. But here's the thing. Okay, the men qualified for their first ever NCAA basketball tournament bid. The women are in as well.
Nice. Good for them.
How about that? High Point.
Good for
will be
them.
in the bracket on both the men's and the women's side. Who would have ever thought that?
That is fantastic.
I like it.
That's
something
very
different,
cool.
A different school. Kind of like it.
Very nice.
You want to talk about the Blackhawks?
Middling along, sitting at 49 points, 20, 36, and 9.
What about the trade deadline? Were you happy with what they did, or?
I like the moves they made going forward. I'm still not thrilled with the coaching situation, but we'll see how things develop in the offseason. And
yeah, you and our unofficial 9th panel member Jamie were going back and forth. What is this thing you were talking about with Brad Marchand? What were you calling him? The drooler or
the licker?
What the hell is that?
He's notorious for licking his opponents on the ice.
Come on.
Seriously.
Come on.
No.
Come on, dude.
I do not make this shit up. It's been out there. He will lick his opponents.
I'm going to have to Google this. Brad Marchand, supposedly one of the best players in the league, licks people?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. I believe you. I don't know enough about hockey to dispute this.
Yeah, reports have been lingering out there.
That he licks people.
Yep.
While he's playing hockey.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. In other sports news, before we move on. Karma's a bitch, Dave. Have I ever told you that?
Yes, she is.
And guess who has been bit in the ass by karma again? He would probably love it. he would probably get off on it. That would be one Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods ruptured his Achilles at home while ramping up his training for the upcoming PGA season. He has had Achilles surgery, will be out most likely the rest of the 2025 season. Oh, but in other news, oh God, here we go.
There's an interview with him on why he licks his opponents.
Dave Googled it, and he's showing me all these. Brad Marchand licks Ryan Callahan after scrum. Bruins Brad Marchand on why he licks opponents. Brad Marchand licks Ryan Callahan. Brad Marchand, quote, licking, kissing compilation. Oh, for the love of God. Oh, for the love of God. It's like hockey porn.
There you go.
I didn't dispute you. I told you.
It's for the kids out there who may not have believed it.
We go back a few years. There's some weird shit going on in hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, bad weird shit.
Yes, there is. Especially with the Canadian Youth League.
Yeah.
Sick fucks.
So anyway, Tiger Woods out for the year.
Now, was that the leg that was badly mangled in the accident?
That I don't know. But again, he supposedly did this at home. Was not while he was playing in the TGL, the arena golf thing. Oh, but good news for Tiger. Bad news for us. I could have saved this for the weekend edition. By the way, the weekend edition coming up this Saturday morning.
Your hangover cure, politically incorrect pop culture commentary, as only we can provide.
Your Uncle Dave and I will review Heretic this weekend and give you updates on Tracker and Reacher, The White Lotus, Dark Winds, all sorts of good stuff.
Yep. A few songs out there. I got a couple of bonus tracks that I knew you wouldn't delve into.
I would imagine those would be Ghost and Volbeat.
They would be correct, sir.
No problems there. No problems there. I'm just waiting for the next Dave Matthews Band album where I can do that. All right, so even though Tiger Woods will be sidelined with a ruptured Achilles, Amazon MGM is moving forward with a movie about Tiger Woods. His rise to glory.
Is Steel Panther doing the soundtrack? I want to be like Tiger Woods.
My God, would that be the best ever? God, would that be the best ever? Now, you know that would never happen, but here's the thing.
It would if you and I were in charge.
Yes. But with the upcoming Happy Gilmore 2, that would... Steel Panther doing that in Happy Gilmore 2 makes a lot more sense.
It does.
And it more feasible. More feasible.
More accepted?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes. Stephen A. Smith got paid. Stephen A. Smith
he did.
gets a 5-year, $100 million ESPN deal, making him one of the highest paid sports talking heads out there. Of course, Tom Brady is still currently the king, the GOAT.
But not when it comes to commentary.
We might have to talk about Stephen A. in a couple minutes.
We may have to.
But it's not
him. Not him. You are correct.
Connected. Dave, I cannot believe, finally, before we move on, and good news, by the way, kids, another week with no moments of silence.
There's one that popped today that I have.
Oh, okay. But Dave and I missed out on a golden opportunity. I cannot believe. Did you lose your invite for this in the mail? I must have lost my invite.
I didn't get an invite.
This past weekend, March the 7th, March the 8th, we missed out on the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference.
Son of a bitch.
Of course, the great Bill Simmons.
I guess they just didn't want any hecklers in the audience.
Remember Bill Simmons, the sports guy?
Yeah.
Remember him? I guess way back when this started in the day, God bless him. I should give him a badass award for this. He named it Dorkapalooza.
Nice.
Yeah, kids, if you can't figure this out, this is all facetious. Dave and I wouldn't be caught dead
At an analytics
at
conference.
the sports analytics conference.
Unless we were throwing eggs at them as they were coming by, but that's too damn expensive to do anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Back during the pandemic, it would have been toilet paper would have been too expensive. Now eggs are too expensive. All right, bud. So you've got the moment of silence this week?
Former NBA player Junior Bridgman, who played for the Milwaukee Bucks, played on the 1975 Louisville Final Four team, has passed away. Also, a business billionaire, one of the first coming out of the NBA with his restaurant franchises.
I love to hear that.
Thoughts and prayers to his family and friends.
Yes, I don't love to hear about death, but I love to hear about people who take the money from their sports career and turn it into something positive and profitable.
Yep. Big in the minority business community, helping people try and find their dreams.
All right, so unfortunately, from that, we have to do what?
Pivot. Who wins the golden boot up the ass for this week?
All right, you're going to yell at me? I got 7. Is that acceptable or is that too much?
Yeah, we'll see. Depends how many are questionable.
God. All right, we're going to start off with NASCAR. We rarely ever call out the good old boys in NASCAR, but we are this
Unless it's
week.
the owners of NASCAR.
Or the sponsors.
And
this would be Jimmy Johnson and Legacy Motor Club. All right, I get the fact that it's hard to find sponsors for stuff, and some of the sponsors that we've seen in NASCAR and the Cup Series over the past few years have been a little
sketchy?
Little bit. But some are fun. But I think this time, Jimmy and Legacy Motor Club have failed their target audience. Okay, so I am not ashamed to admit I'm a NASCAR fan. Okay, and I'm an intelligent man with a college degree. Okay, but I also respect Billy Joe Bob, who might be working on a trash truck or working on an assembly line.
Probably making more than me,
yeah,
but
and that's
there you
what
go.
makes America great. John Hunter Nemechek. I'm not blaming him. Again, I'm blaming Legacy Motor Club. This weekend at Las Vegas, on his car, he is going to be sponsored by the Backstreet Boys. God help me, the Backstreet... And I didn't know about this.
Do they have a residency?
At the Sphere. How the fuck... I hate the Grateful Dead. But come on. Come on. I hate Fish. But this is taking it to a whole nother level. The Backstreet Boys residency at the Sphere will be featured on John Hunter Nemechek's car this weekend at Las Vegas.
You knew there was going to be a Vegas sponsor tie-in somewhere.
Do you really think NASCAR fans care about the Backstreet Boys at the Sphere? Honestly?
No. Maybe a small segment.
Previous music acts that have appeared on Legacy Motor Club on their cars, Guns N' Roses. And I know we don't like Creed, but still. This is a
little bit of a
down.
drop back.
Yeah. All right, next up. Our man Elon Musk and X. Now he says Twitter, or X, I'm sorry.
Whatever the fuck it's called now.
Was hacked. That's always the excuse. It's always the excuse.
It's always
go
hacked.
wrong. When things go wrong. But I was able to watch the early hours of the free agency signing period on Monday, and all of the pretentious asshats, Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, bitching and pissing and moaning and complaining. X is out. How am I supposed to get my information? X is out. I don't know how to get my information.
Gee, how about you go old school?
Well, tied into that is ESPN, as they were running their constant free agency ticker on Monday into Tuesday, telling everybody who was signing where, decided they needed to start crediting the agents. So when they would announce somebody had signed, they would say, this person is represented by Drew Rosenhaus. Or
Drew Rosenhaus reports his client, blah, blah, blah.
No, they mentioned the agent at the end.
Oh, Jesus. Represented by.
Yeah. This deal was brokered by so-and-so.
Lame. Lame. Lame.
All right, we mentioned this was coming earlier. LeBron James, last Thursday, I believe, when the Lakers were playing the Knicks, yelling at Stephen A. Smith during the game because of Stephen A. Smith criticizing the whole Bronny James deal. And LeBron, again, during the game, yelling at him, don't say shit about my son. That's my son. That's my son.
Yeah, well, guess what, LeBron? By you bringing your son into the spotlight makes him fair game for commentary.
Last time I checked, he was a grown man, right? Bronny was?
Yeah, he's a man. He plays in the NBA, mostly the G League.
And once again, LeBron
shows what a little bitch he is.
There's no way in hell he is one of the top 10 players of all time. And I know that pisses off all the diehard NBA fans.
Compiler.
Yes. I take Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan. I will take Magic Johnson. I will take Larry Bird. I will take Kareem Abdul, Kobe Bryant. The list goes on of players I would take ahead of this piss-poor whiner compiler known as LeBron James. Going back to the Yahoo Snowflakes, my daily newsletter. Because, of course, again, 10% of it is actually worth reading, because the other 90% is women's sports, soccer, lacrosse, snowflake sports. But the other day they actually tried to tug at my heartstrings, and it didn't work. Because I have numbers to back up why I hate these snowflakes. Okay, they had to discuss the Iditarod. Okay?
Okay.
They said they want the Iditarod ended in the newsletter because a dog died during the Iditarod. And that means that in the history of the Iditarod, over 100 dogs have died.
Okay.
Do you know how many horses die?
In horse racing in a year?
1,000 to 2,000 die a year in horse racing.
And you've had 100 dogs in the 100+ years of the Iditarod.
But these Yahoo snowflakes, you need to end the Iditarod right now. This is cruel and unusual punishment for the dogs.
And that's just... Now, is that straight horse racing, or does that include harness racing? Where that shit is fucked up, where they're pulling the Sukis?
I think this includes all of it.
Okay.
That's why the numbers are high.
Harness racing is what needs to be knocked out. That shit is ridiculous.
But I think what we need to do is we need to take some perspective here. Okay? Are we going to end all sports involving animals? You know? Are we going to stop greyhound racing, horse racing, the Iditarod? You know? You let Michael fucking Vick come back into the NFL after he was fighting dogs illegally. I would love to hear the snowflakes talk on that.
Yeah.
So please keep in mind, it's not me hating dogs, but the hypocrisy
of it's fine for horses to die on the racetrack, but you lose a dog every so often in the Iditarod.
Again, hypocrisy. The defending NHL champion Florida Panthers are in trouble. Was it Matthew Tkachuk is hurt?
Yep.
Maybe, possibly will be back for the playoffs. Now, I believe top defenseman Aaron Ekblad becomes the first player since 2018 to get a PED suspension in the NHL.
Oh!
Claims he took something to overcome recent injuries and didn't check with the team. That's pretty straightforward.
That's pretty dumb.
That's pretty straightforward, dumbass. He will now be unavailable to the Panthers the rest of the regular season and probably will miss a couple games in the playoffs.
Speaking of PEDs, we missed talking about Mo Vaughn back in the baseball segment, admitting that he took injections of HGH into his knee later in his career.
We will bring up stuff like that, I think, when we get to the next run of Hall of Famers, because I'm to the point now where let them all in. Because you've let Big Papi in. Big Papi. That's the biggest sham of all time.
Yeah.
Number one, there's no way he should be in ahead of a ton of other players who are on the outside looking in. And number two, we know he took steroids too. If Manny Ramirez can't get in, why is Big Papi in?
Exactly. All right.
Final dumbass. Final one. And this might actually be a no-brainer lock. That's why I saved it for last. So let's recap. Let's do this. I don't like to do this, but let's recap. Florida Panthers, Aaron Ekblad. Yahoo for saying they should end the Iditarod. X for their numerous outages during the NFL free agent signings. ESPN for having to credit the agent every time there was a signing. LeBron James for yelling at Stephen A. Smith about don't treat Bronny bad. And John Hunter Nemechek and Legacy Motor Club for putting the Backstreet Boys on his car. Now finally, here's the one. Brookville, Virginia. She's not the dumbass. So let me tell you the whole story. Brookville, Virginia high school relay runner Kaylin Tucker.
Yep. This is
hit in the head with a baton during a relay race by IC Norcom high school runner Alila Everett. The video is out there. It is shocking. It is disturbing.
There's no
Kalen
doubt
Tucker.
what was there's no doubt what happened.
Kalen Tucker being treated for concussion and possible skull fracture. And meanwhile, this is the fucking poster child for our world today. This Alayla Everett didn't come forward at first. And then a day or two later...
No, it was almost a week before she said anything.
And then she has to come out and say, I think it's pretty selfish. I'm paraphrasing the first part. I will say that. I think it's pretty selfish that Kalen Tucker is thinking only of her physical injuries, where, now this is a direct quote, nobody is not thinking of my mental. Basically saying, what about my mental anguish for what I went through? Because you slugged somebody over the head with a baton?
Now, people, she should not be getting death threats over this. That is way over the line.
But again, this is the world we live in.
But she should be held accountable. No apology.
No apology. No, from
nothing
her or the school.
Or from the school or her coach or team. Like, whatever. It's obvious. You see her arm motion, and as the runner passes her by, completely changes her arm angle to hit the girl in the head.
But yeah, you're right. It's wrong on all levels. It is wrong on all levels. If we had
damn trolls need to shut the fuck up.
But if we had
do not do death threats, people.
But at the same time, how about some accountability?
That's what we need.
How about the police throw her ass in jail for assault?
There should be pending assault investigation.
Taking a long time, it seems like. Taking a goddamn long time.
This needs to be looked at closely.
And you wonder why people are scared to death to walk out of their homes in the morning. It's because somehow, some way, the media, circumstances will flip shit on you if you defend yourself or if something happens to you. The assailant will become the victim.
Yep.
Now, I'm with you 100%. The trolls, the death threat bullshit, that does not need to be around.
There's no excuse for that crap.
But at the same time, this young woman needs to be held accountable for what she did. Her school needs to take responsibility. Where the hell was the
apology right off the bat as soon as the race ended? Her ass should have been over there checking on the girl. If it was literally an accident, as she claims.
You watch the video, she looks at her for like a second. Probably because she's thinking, oh, fuck, I guess I did that. And then kept going.
Oh, that went further than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Nothing. Bingo. Winner, hands down, mic drop.
That's why I saved it for the end, is because I figured that was going to be the one that was going to win the whole shooting match. So, but I will say, just for a minute, let's continue this. We agree. This is the dumbass of the week.
This is the dumbass of the week.
Multiple levels. I want to say, I'm a little shocked that you would bring up the trolls first. That, to me, is a secondary concern.
I want
accountability and criminal charges should be first.
But nobody should have to undergo death threats for something like this.
But first and foremost, the incident needs to take precedence. She assaulted a woman with a deadly weapon.
I don't disagree with that.
But you're jumping on the whole death threats thing like that's a secondary thing. That's unfortunately a scumbag, sleazy portion of our lives that we have to deal with today. I mean, it is.
It is.
I don't like it. I hate it. Everybody who puts an opinion out there should have to face the music. People who threaten the life of the president, the life of a congressman or congresswoman, anybody. If you type in a threat to somebody, you should have to be
held accountable as well.
Yes, but that's secondary to the actual physical assault that happened. By far. By far. She needs to, number one, go to jail or have her day in court and needs to pay the penalty
There
for striking.
should be accountability, yes. I don't discount that at all.
But you seem like you're getting too wrapped up with the death
Because
threat. It happens every day.
I know, and that's why I hate the fucking trolls.
I agree with you on that.
I'm sorry. That irked me more than anything else. That seemed to be the overriding piece that I've been reading about more and more over the entire story as this has gone deeper.
Well, and that's sick, and that's sad because the overriding story should
be the assault.
Yes.
And that's being pushed to the background over this other stuff.
Right.
Which is wrong, which is why I called that piece out as well.
Because they both should be addressed.
Absolutely.
I would just like to see more of an emphasis on
the assault
the
piece.
initial event and what happened. And then, because everybody, everywhere, every day, as sick and sad as this society is, get death threats, get people stalking you online. Social media, bane of our existence. Facebook, X, Instagram could all fucking go away tomorrow.
TikTok, please die.
And I would be ecstatic to get rid of all of it.
Amen.
I would love to see all of it go away.
Along with 24-hour news coverage.
I held out as long as I could on getting a cell phone because I knew what was going to happen. I knew this kind of shit. Constant contact. Everybody looking at their phones all the time. Not paying attention when they drive. Not paying attention where they're walking. And then it's your fault when they run into you.
Yeah. Society's woes.
Yes. So I understand where you're going. I'm worried that you sounded like you're putting more of an emphasis on that than the actual assault.
No, I'm trying to give both the piece.
Oh, by the way, drop us a comment.
Unless you're a fucking troll living in Grandmama's basement.
Yeah, we would prefer you didn't give us death threats, but I think Dave and I could actually handle it better than most. When and where? When and where?
Click, click.
Saliva, right? Click, click, boom. Was
yes.
that saliva? Okay. And that, again, will remind me that you kids need to listen to the weekend edition.
For more of this fun-filled frivolity.
And more dumbasses. But until Saturday morning, when your Uncle Dave and I will nurse you through your Friday night hangover. And then, of course, if for some reason you don't like our irreverent pop culture commentary, we'll do this sports stuff again in 7 days.
That's right.
And again, March Madness. March Madness.
Get your brackets ready. Sharpen that pencil, kids.
But until that happens, he's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev.
Say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.